Hello, and welcome to week 2 of text mining, module 2. Yeah, module 2. We're actually in week 3. We're reconfiguring a little bit of the semester. I really do appreciate all of you putting in your survey results and trying your best on your homework. It kind of gave me the idea you haven't done Python before, and that's totally fine. That means we're going to take a step back and really dive into the Python enough to get you comfortable. But remember, the focus of this class is text mining. So we're going to get you up to speed as much as you need to be to do text analytics. Don't worry that you don't know Python completely. That's totally fine. I'm also trying a new video format. We'll see. I think I'm floating maybe in the bottom. We'll see if that actually works. So bear with me. Module 2 learning objectives. So the first week of this class, we just kind of dove into what's going on with text, why do we use it. Week 2, that was more about let's just try something in Python. So let's get it working, get everything open, make sure everything's working. Now this week we can actually dive into what did we do, why did we do it, how do you really understand what to do with it. And then we also start to understand how do we get structured data from unstructured data. And we're going to begin the conversation about ethical considerations. That's really an ongoing conversation, especially in the age of ChatGPT and all of these fun things floating around. We have to talk about the ethics behind web scraping in general. So yeah, that's about it. Let's dive in. So last week we talked about web scraping, and I kind of just dove in and didn't explain it. So I'm going to take a step back and really explain why we're doing web scraping. Now, when we think about text, we can get it from many different places. And in the age of the internet, the biggest place we're going to get it is obviously online. So with web scraping, we're taking something from the web, whether it's a traditional website, a blog, social media sources, anything that's on the internet, basically, and we're going to scrape it. So we're going to get the good things from it, and we're going to get that out. And typically that is text data, because when we're online, the biggest thing that we're seeing is text. Now you can do that with things like images. It's beyond the scope of this class, but just kind of know that that stuff is out there. So web scraping, we're taking valuable data, the text from the web, so website, social media, etc., and we're going to get that out so that we can actually do something with it. Now, I put social media on here. I will say that when I first taught this class years ago, the first thing we did was scrape Twitter, now X, for data because it's got a lot of good information. And now that it's X, it doesn't actually allow a lot of the web scraping we used to do. It's now a paid feature, so we don't do that anymore. And honestly, a lot of the places that we used to scrape pretty regularly, they are actually now API only, which means API, you have to sign up for a key, and they basically give you a certain amount of leeway with getting information from their website. So that means you input your key, that's your token in to get to the website, and they say maybe you can make a certain number of calls per day. So I can get 1,000 elements per day or 100,000, or I have to pay per time I'm asking the website for information. So that would mean for every tweet, it would be, that's one call. Now, part of the ethical considerations is that websites, because every call, every time we're asking for information, that does tax their servers. So they are well within their rights to say, hey, don't do that. The other side of that is that people like you that are learning how to do this, researchers that are looking into different web sources for legitimate academic purposes, scientific purposes, we're beginning to be limited because of this idea that websites want to control their traffic so much that they don't allow anyone else in, which again, that's within their rights. It does call into some question about academic freedom and scientific research and all that. But just so you know, that's kind of going on in the web scraping world. And part of the ethics of this is that these big companies are the ones that are shutting down web scraping. Um, the smaller companies that don't have resources to do that, they can still be scraped, which is good for academics and scientific and just trying things new. Not so great for their servers. So as we do all of this web scraping, what I ask is that you go to a bigger website. So you go to a website where they have the resources to handle any extra traffic. That you don't do this all day long. So I know you're just dying to work on the homework for hours and hours and hours. Try not to do that. Scrape a couple websites. Don't try to get every page of every website you've ever seen. And yeah, kind of look at the big guys in the field versus the small mom and pop shops, just because they can typically handle it better. Excuse me, the hiccups. The New York Times, AP News, those kind of places can handle this kind of web traffic, or they've shut it down already. So just kind of keep that in mind as we ethically scrape the web. Now, when we're doing this web scraping, we're doing it in a certain way because of the way the websites are structured. So if you've never taken a coding class, it's totally fine. But a website is built up of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML is like the skeleton of the website. It's the structure, and it tells us where things are kind of laid, the text behind them, different links within the website. We add CSS, which is has style in the word. I always forget what it stands for, but it's the style, the looks of the website. So what are the colors? What are kind of the branding elements of the website? And then JavaScript comes in to tell us the behavior. So how should it act? And that goes down to, if I go to a website, the different links should go somewhere and it should look a certain way. So all of these three things, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, they work together to build the website as you see it. So it's the animation, the looks, the feel, that's all through these three elements. Now, when we're scraping the website, we don't really care about the look and feel. We care about the text that's on it. So we are focused solely on that HTML layer. So that's why when I added the data camp extra classes, if you wanted to take any of those, they're all focused on HTML because that's really what we care about. So I'm going to show an example. And for this one, I'm going to show you und.edu. And I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. That's our code for later. So und.edu. Look at Grady. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to right click on anything on this page. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go down to inspect. Now I am using Google Chrome. That's just my preferred web browser. I will say this works better in Chrome. It works in other browsers too. It just might look slightly different. So now this is kind of the neat part. So it popped up a lot of code. You don't need to know what this means. But what we're doing is as we go over certain parts of this code, you can see actually what it's doing on this side and vice versa. So if I go back, I'm going to inspect this button, schedule a visit, inspect. It'll pop up exactly where it goes. And you can actually see that this, if I click on that button, it's going to take me to attend.und.edu. It's going to show me visit options. Now, if I scroll down on the page, let's see. So these are some elements like giving. So inspect. And now you see that this is an H2 class. H2 is like a header. The class is called post index header 2. Now let's see, this looks a lot like this next thing, and I bet this one's also going to have post index header 2. So if I click inspect, there you go. So you see that they're actually the same class. Post index header 2, post index header 2. So you see how it's kind of built and it shows you exactly what each page is doing. Now, if I go to AP News, it's going to load for a second. I will say AP News is not the easiest. It's just a just kind of centrist website, so everyone can kind of get on board with it. So let's see, this is the US news page, some awful storms this week. So if I right click, inspect, you will see that this is a span class, which we don't need to know what that means, but the class in quotations is page promo content icons dash text. Now the cool thing is this one is also going to be page promo content icons text. There you go. And all of these, the same thing, which is great because now I can say, hey, if I find that thing that says page promo content icon slash text, if you say it enough, you finally memorize it, it's going to give me all the headlines, which is great when I go back and start scraping this. I can say, look for that specific tag and give me that data. So a few things to know about HTML. If you see an A in these brackets, the like caret brackets, that's a hyperlink. So it's going to have A and then href, which is just saying, hey, here's a URL I'm going to take you to, and it's going to give you a hyperlink. So like this one, I think is actually on the UND one was better. So if I go here, let's see, inspect, so you see a href, and it's saying that button takes you to this other site. There are other ways to do this where it says like it'll take you to a specific page, it'll take you to a reference within that page. But for this one, it's just taking you to a specific website. The div class is a container for HTML elements. So it'll be like a div, and then within it, you're going to find more elements. So again, let's see, div class is slider rail. So that makes sense. It's a slider on the website. It's going to go through. So the div class is a slider rail. Class is a specific class of element, which again, class here. So it's a specific name. These are not standardized across the industry. So it's whoever built the website, whatever they called it. And then there's sometimes specific IDs within the code. And let me see if I can find a good ID. And they're usually down a little bit in here. It's like, oh, here we go. So there's some ones for Google Tag Manager. Let's go down a little bit more. Lots of ones for Google. Oh, here we go. So the ID for this one is global skip links. So it just gives you a more distinct look at what's going on the website. So a div is bigger than a class, which is bigger than an ID. So it just kind of fits together in that hierarchy. So that's the super basics of HTML. I'm going to show you some other examples as we go through the coding, but that's what we're looking at. We are going to a website. We are right-clicking and looking at inspect. Now this will also pop up if you do, I think it's maybe view, oh yeah, view developer tools or inspect elements. The other thing to note is that as you're doing this, you might want to copy and paste something. So all you have to do is right click over here on the dev tools and you can copy it. I usually do just copy element. You might find that you like certain other things if you want more information about it. And that's basically it for now. So again, I'm not trying to overwhelm you with code. I will be honest, I don't code HTML. I did MySpace back in the day, but that's about it. So that's the extent to which I need you to know HTML, is to know that you can right click on things and inspect and see the code behind it. So again, all we did was go to a website, right click on any element. So HTML has a specific term that's element. I just mean anything on the page, and you can click inspect to see more about it. And then the HTML that pops up on the right side of your window will show you exactly what's going on. All right, now for the code walkthrough, what you're excited about, I'm sure. So I am opening up a Jupyter notebook. When you are in Anaconda, so let me open this here, you will see many options. Orange is the one we were going to use for this class. I have found it does not work as well as I was told, so we're going to probably stick with Python most of the time. Now you can use Notebook or you can use Jupyter Lab. They are essentially the same thing. The only thing is that Jupyter Lab, let me launch this so you can kind of see. It has this neat thing. Close out of all this stuff. You never need to create an account if you don't want to. So the nice thing about this is that it actually allows you to open multiple files at once versus the notebook that only lets you open one. So I like this where you can actually see some of my research right here. I do text analytics for my research. I have multiple versions of the same file because I am going back and forth and revising some papers. But it's nice having all of that open, and then I see all of my files over here versus Notebook, you just see this. So it depends on what you're working on. For this class, if you just want to open Notebook because you can see it all in one place and you don't need to open other files, great. If you want to use Jupyter Lab, totally fine, no difference. So I'm opening up Jupyter Notebook right now. And in the file, I am going to add it to the content of module 2, but it's also in homework number 3. But we're just going to go through a few of these things. So in every Python file, we have some sort of setup. Now this can happen anytime within the code. I like to do it up front as much as possible. And this is where I'm importing packages, so things that are going to help my code run the way that I want it to. A few things I always import are pandas. That's how we get data in a data frame. It's like rows and columns, like an Excel sheet. NumPy or NumPy, it's the numbers function within Python. Requests, so we can actually go to websites within the code. This one just allows me to see more of the columns that I'm looking at. This is really nice with text when sometimes the text can be really, really long. We want to see more of it. I'm actually doing requests twice, so I can take out that one. And then Beautiful Soup, that's the package we use for a lot of text mining or web scraping. And I just called it BS4 to kind of give it a nickname, but it's Beautiful Soup. Now you can click either the run button, or you can, while you're in the cell, just press Shift Enter or Shift Return if you're on Mac, and you see it runs it. If you're on a comment like this, you can do the same thing and it'll run it, but comments don't do anything, so you'll see how it does that. Now we are going to scrape a site together. And this is one we've actually done before in homework 2. I think we did the main AP news page. We're gonna go to the US page today. So if I do this, I'm gonna copy this just so you can see what I'm looking at. So it's the AP news, and you see there's the AP header. This up there, that's on every page. Specific things that are on the US news site. But what I really want, what I'm trying to get down to, is I want to see these headlines. So you see each one of these is a headline. So let me do what we just did before. I'm going to right click and inspect. Okay, and just like we saw before, it's the span class and it's page promo content icons text. Now I will say the AP news site is a little funky because when I right click, say up here and inspect, you see that it's the same class. So it's all page promo content icons text. That will get a little annoying later, but I'll show you how to fix it. But it's basically grouping all of this with the headlines. So we'll have to take that out later. So I have a few things. So when I do this, I'm going to put in the URL that I want to go to. So in this case, it's the AP News US news site. And I'm going to create a soup object, which is just a funny name for when we're using Beautiful Soup. The objects it creates are soup objects. It's just what it calls it. And we're using LXML. Beautiful Soup is not actually a web parser. It's a tool to parse websites. So we're using the XML part of it. There's also an HTML parser as part of Beautiful Soup. Just if you want to look into it more, know that. And if you don't, you can forget I said that. So I'm going to run this. And now it has gone out to the AP News website. It has taken the HTML. And now it's created this soup object. Now I'm going to uncomment this out. And actually, I'm just going to show you the pretty version of the soup. So our soup looks like this. You see at the top it has the HTML class equals section page. Now, if I go back to this over here, you'll actually see it's the exact same thing as over here. It's just a way to see it within your code if you don't want to skip back and forth between the website and your code. For your assignment, the one thing I do ask is if you can just comment this again by putting a hash in front of it. That gets rid of all of the text because it is pages and pages of text. So this is not pretty, we know that, but there are ways to start making it a little bit more readable. The first thing I'm going to do is remember that page promo content icons text. You're going to have that memorized by the end of this. I'm going to say soup find all. I'm telling it it's a span class because, again, expect. I'm just putting exactly what I see. So span, and then the class equals that page promo. So it's span class page promo. And then I'm going to print out that object and I'm going to say, how many headlines do we get? So how many hits did I get off of that page promo? So here it is again, still kind of ugly, but it's starting to, I can see some headlines in here. And when I get to the end, you can see that I scraped 93 headlines. So this page contains 93 page promo content icons text. So 93 instances of that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is take all of those headlines and say, let's split them up a little bit. So I know I have 93 of them. I want to see all 93. And I'm saying for each time I see that page promo content icons text, get the name of it. So take out all of the extra stuff in there. Just give me the name. Give me the today's date. So this is a way to add extra columns if you want to add some more information. So I'm saying get today's date and get the page name, which is in this case, US News. So you can change this to whatever you want, but for me, I'm just gonna put it like that. I'm gonna run this and it actually ran really fast, which is great. So now I can print my headlines. And in this case, we actually made a dictionary. Again, you don't need to know Python, but just some extra information. This is a dictionary. And so the dictionary contains the headline and then the date and the new US News part. You will notice it's a little weird because of the thing I said about the AP News, where it has all of the headlines. And like the header part is also a headline technically. So you'll see I actually have a couple extra columns. Now, if I didn't do that, let me just take this out for a second. So if I just have headline, date, and category, if I run this, I'm actually going to get an error because it says I have 5 columns, not 3. So that's the reason why I have these X and Y in here. And you see exactly why that happened. It's because this headline, the like AP byline basically messes up my entire data frame. But no worries, I'm going to show you how to fix it. So I've got headline, date, and category, and then X and Y. And you actually see that this is the byline, the like AP News descriptor. These are the things that were at the top of that page. So severe US storms, Memorial Day, severe US storms, Memorial Day. I don't need any of that. I just want the headlines. So I'm going to look down here and say, okay, I actually want this to start at row 6. And then I only want these 3 categories or these 3 columns. So this is where I added that code where it says, just get me everything after row 6 and drop X and Y. Once I've done that, I now actually have a nice data frame and you can see all of my headlines and it has the date and US News. So at this point, I'd love you to pause the video and practice something else. So go to New York Times, go to another page of AP News, go to ESPN, go to some other website and try to scrape it. When you come back, we're going to jump into the Avalon project. Now, this is a really cool website. I'm going to go to this, and hopefully you've paused and you're not actually just continually watching the video. But the Avalon project is from Yale, and it's this really neat project that's putting all of the documents from history all on one website. So if I go to like 16th century, there's a patents letter. If I go over here, let's see. I'm not a history person. Oh, Atlantic Charter. You can see the charter for this. That's pretty cool. But what we're actually going to look at is MLK. We're going to look at the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. And so if you look at this, it's just I have a dream. And if I inspect, you'll actually notice this website does the text in a really neat way, in which it doesn't add the stuff that we don't need, like AP News, and like it doesn't have ads and all that funky stuff. It literally just has every new part of the text is that P tag, which is a paragraph tag. So each new one is a new paragraph, which means it makes it really easy to scrape. So what we're going to do, same setup as before. Let's tell it the URL. We're going to tell it we're going to use LXML, which you don't need to know. I'm going to print off this so you can see how pretty it is. It actually is really nice, each paragraph. And then I'm going to comment it out by selecting all and pressing Control/ or Command/. There we go. But now I can say, instead of looking for that page promo content icons, that big long thing, I can say, look for the next the next paragraph, and that's all I need. So I'm going to say soup.p and then find the first P, the first paragraph, and then find all the rest. So again, I'm giving you this code. You don't have to do it. It will work for, I think, every single page on this site. So find all of the paragraphs. And then this is just the code to put it all together in a data frame. So that, and then you run this. Oh, actually, this part's not for you. I'm going to take that out. But then suddenly that page that has all of this is now what we call a data frame. It is now in rows and columns. In this case, it's just one column, and it's each row is a new paragraph. So that's module 2. In homework number 3, I would like you to take any other speech from this website. So again, if I go to any random one, I would say don't do the PDF files. Those are probably, yeah, those are the most difficult. So do any of these that actually have the text on the page. And again, if you inspect those P's, those paragraphs, do any other page on this website and show me what data frame you get. So you can use the exact same code. You don't even have to rename anything. Just change what's in this part and show me what you got. So this is a really great way to get text from a website. We're web scraping because we're scraping that good stuff from the website. We're doing that because we're looking at the HTML behind the website. And I've thrown a lot of technical stuff at you this week, but based on what you're doing in homework 2, I know you can handle it. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Our first office hours will be, let's see, Sunday, June 2nd, from 1 to 2 p.m. I'm just going to be online in Google Meets. Feel free to join me, pop in, say hi, bring questions if you have them, or if you just want to introduce yourself, totally fine. But yeah, you all are rocking it right now. So keep that up, and I will see you next week. Bye.